Hey everyone, C.R. Waters here again with another episode of Too Beautiful to Be Broken. Today we're going to go over some more detailed statistics about sexual assault and domestic violence. Like last week, the subject matter is a little bit grown up for our little ones, so if they're around, you may want to just wait until after they go to sleep to listen. This is a safe place for this subject, and if anyone has any questions or comments, please contact me at cr.waters@aol.com or 951-208-4709. I will listen and respond to every question. If you've been assaulted recently or in the past and need someone to talk to, please call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE or 4673. We need to make sure that everyone's safe first, so if you're in a situation or you've been in one very recently, please call 911. Your safety is our first priority. So I told you last week that we're going to go in and talk a little bit more about statistics. The first statistics that I want to go into are just some of the details about percentages on sexual assault. And then I want to talk about the staggering amount of money that our country spends every year on rape and sexual assault. The numbers I'm giving you do not include childhood sexual assault. And then I want to end tonight with what consent is and isn't. Hear me rustling papers, that's because I am. So 51% of female rape victims report it being an intimate partner rape. 40% say it's an acquaintance. 52% of male rape victims report it being an acquaintance, while 15% say that it's a stranger. 91% of victims of rape are female. 8 out of 10 rapes, the victim knew the perpetrator. 8% of rapes occur while the victim is at work. 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted by the age of 18. 30% of women 11 to 17 will experience a completed rape. 12.3% of women will be 10 years or younger. 27.8% of men will be 10 years or younger. More than a third of women that were assaulted as a child will be assaulted again as an adult. 99% of perpetrators will walk free. 13% of female rape survivors will attempt suicide. 34% of people that were sexually assaulted as a child were assaulted by a family member. It is estimated that 325 children per year are at risk of being victims of the commercial child sexual exploitation. Only 12% of child abuse is ever reported. Rape is the most underreported crime. 63% of sexual assault is not reported. 321,500 is the average number of rape victims and assault victims per year in the U.S. 94% of the women that experience rape will get PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. 57% of sexual assault perpetrators are white. Only 2 to 10% of rape reports are false. Over 400,000 babies born in the U.S. this year will be victims of sexual abuse. 14% of the victims of sexual assault are ages 0 to 5. That makes me sick to my stomach, that someone would do that to our babies. Now I want to talk about the financial aspect of it. Our country spends $127 billion a year on rape and sexual assault. Remember, that's not childhood sexual assault. In the year 2008 alone, we spent $750 billion. The estimated number of women that were raped between 1998 and now was 2,780,000 people. The statistics are unbelievable, to say the least. I can't believe what we're coming to as a country. if we're putting that much money every year as a country into sexual assault and rape, we're going in the wrong direction. It's time for us to end the silence and start bringing all this out into the light so that our survivors of sexual assault know that they have a voice. I want to look at what consent is. Consent is an agreement between people participating in sexual activity. So we're going to assume, based on that description, that that means adult people, since people under the age of 18 cannot consent. So there's a lot of ways to give consent, but probably the most important and the best way to do it is to simply say yes. But you have to make sure that both partners are at a place where they understand that consent on both parts is needed if you're going to do what you're doing. Consent is all about communication. Communication is a huge part of being in an intimate relationship with somebody. Just because you may be dressed a little sexy or agreeing to kiss someone or whatever the case may be does not mean you're automatically consenting. You have the right to say no at any given time. It doesn't matter how far into it you are. If you change your mind and you say no, it's just simply no. And that's on both people's parts. It's not just one or the other, it's both people. What consent does not look like is refusing to acknowledge when someone says no, assuming that because they're wearing something provocative or sexy, or because they're being flirtatious or they're kissing you, that automatically means yes. Definitely someone under the age of 18 is not old enough to consent. I don't care what they look like or how close to the age of 18 they are. They are not old enough to consent. Someone that is incapacitated because of drugs or alcohol is not okay to consent. Just because they say yes if they're drunk, that does not necessarily mean that it's yes. Pressuring someone, saying, that you're going to hurt them, or through fear or intimidation, that's no way to get a yes. And if they say yes, it's not a real yes. Assuming that you can do it because you've done it in the past does not mean consent. Guys, simply because you take your girl out to dinner and you spend $200 on a nice dinner and you buy her roses or diamonds or whatever else it may be, does not mean you have consent. This is not a pay money for sex kind of situation. Just because you spend a lot of money does not mean that she has to consent. You cannot pressure or guilt somebody into doing something. You can't make them feel like they owe you something. If they say no, it's just no. You can't pretend that makes you feel some kind of way or make them feel like they have to or you're going to be mad. That's not the way that two consenting adults agree to be in an intimate relationship. And yes, consent is required every single time. We've kind of got ourselves in a rape culture kind of situation right now. Rape culture is defined as systematically rooted judgment towards rape victims and society's acceptance of sexual assault. We're in a bad place right now. We have alcohol-fueled situations, boys in our society thinking that they have the right to be dominant over women, and we're raising girls that do not believe that they're worthy. And sadly, I think that a lot of that comes from lack of communication from parents. And I don't want to put it all off on parents, but the reality is, guys, we're losing our kids. We're dropping the ball because a situation or a topic makes us uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about it. And it's getting to the point where it's almost becoming normal in our society. We're blaming victims. They're not wanting to come forward. It's, 82% of rapes are committed by non-strangers. That means that these are somebody that our kids or people that we know that this happens to know the person that's doing that to them. We have to remember that victims are never at fault. Never at fault. And prevention of this is everyone's responsibility. We have a role as a society to create safe environments for everybody, to intervene and stop if we see something going wrong, to model healthy behavior and attitudes, especially to our kids, and to believe survivors. We have to show them that they can trust us, that we'll give them support, that we'll listen to them, that we'll be empathetic. If what they're saying to us makes us uncomfortable, well, I'm sorry, guys, suck it up. Imagine what they went through. They need somebody that's willing to listen and be there. And then we have to act on it. We have to show them that we're going to be proactive in helping them figure this out. If they refuse to report it, we have to find them somebody to talk to. We have to find them somebody that can help them understand, and if there's a possibility of STDs or a pregnancy or some sort of mental issues or physical issues, if they were raped and there's injuries, we have to make sure we help them get to the right place. And none of us in this society are exempt from helping the people around us that we care about. We have to pay attention to the people around us and recognize when they're hurting. And that includes our kids. If our kids come home from school and they look like something's wrong, or they're being quiet, or they're not wanting to talk about something, or something just feels off, we as parents need to pay attention to that. Because if it's not happening to our kids, it may be happening to somebody that they know. And junior high and high school is an already confusing time for our teens. Come on, guys, we've been there. We know what it's like to go through all that. When you don't know who you are and you don't know what to expect, and you think you gotta to do what all of your friends think. It's called peer pressure. We've been there. But for some reason with our own kids, we forget what that looks like, and we want to ignore it and pretend it's not happening. We don't get that luxury, guys. These are our kids. We love them. We take care of them. We nurture them. These are the babies that we held in the hospital and swore that we were going to protect always. Well, guys, just because they're junior hires and we want to throw them out the window sometimes, they're still our kids. Those are still our babies that we love. And if we don't talk to them, somebody will. And that somebody is not going to be somebody that has our kids' best interest at heart. It's somebody that's going to hurt them. Or it's another kid that's not going to be able to tell them anything because they don't know either. We are those people that need to step up and step out of our comfort zones and talk to them. We need to show them that we love them and show them that we'll listen and that we'll talk about whatever subject it is, no matter how hard it may be. And no matter how much we don't want to hear our kids talk about sexual activity and their friends and the things that they're hearing at school, or grown-ups. This isn't anything we haven't heard before. Just because these are our babies talking about it, well, guess what? They got to have somebody to listen to them. And that somebody needs to be us. We need to teach them what consent is. We need to teach them to be okay with themselves. Half of our bullying issues come from the fact that our kids simply don't understand what empathy feels like and how to listen to other people. When you haven't lived a day in somebody else's life, we have no right to judge somebody else's life. So we need to take a step back in ourselves and realize that if anything in this society is going to change, it's going to change starting at home. Our country is spending $127 billion a year on sexual assault and rape. That does not include what I'm sure is a ridiculous amount of money on childhood sexual assault. We're going in the wrong direction, guys. We got to go back to the roots, to home, and start teaching our kids, first and foremost, that we love them and that we support them and that we're there for them and that no matter what, we will listen to what they say. Because guess what? That gives us strong girls that know they have voices, that know they're worthy, that know they're loved, that will be able to stand up and say no. And it gives us boys that learn how to respect women and respect themselves and understand when somebody says no, that means no. But every bit of that starts at home. And it doesn't start when our kids are in junior high, guys. It starts when our kids are in preschool. Talking about every little thing they want to talk about. It's time, guys. I hope you guys got something out of tonight. I hope that the statistics give you a little bit broader view on what's going on. And like I said earlier, if anybody has any questions or comments, please get in contact with me. Until next Monday, be safe, everyone. Give your kids a kiss and a hug. Good night, and God bless.